I'm Kusha Karvandi, and you're listening to Exerscribe Radio, the source for biohacking your health to reach your full potential. I created Exerscribe to provide people with a roadmap to working out. With our new workout app, you can get a custom workout program that adapts your workouts to your body type, goals, sleep quality, stress levels, and personal preferences. With live chat support, our workout app has become so comprehensive, some call it a personal trainer in your pocket. Our users are seeing over 90% success rates with their goals because we take the neural approach to fitness, meaning we integrate movements and exercises that recalibrate your brain and body to prime you for rapid strength gains and fat loss. Check out the Exerscribe workout app in the iTunes App Store today. In today's podcast, I interview Shawn Stevenson. Shawn Stevenson is a best-selling author and creator of the Model Health Show, featured as the #1 nutrition and fitness podcast on iTunes. A graduate of the University of Missouri St. Louis with a background in biology and kinesiology, Shawn went on to be the founder of Advanced Integrative Health Alliance, a successful company that provides wellness services for both individuals and organizations worldwide. Shawn is also a dynamic keynote speaker who has spoken for TEDx, universities, and numerous organizations with outstanding reviews. To learn more about Shawn, visit theshawnstevensonmodel.com. Hey everyone, we're here on Exerscribe Radio with best-selling author and health coach Shawn Stevenson. Welcome, Shawn.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Awesome. So just to get started, could you tell the audience a little bit about you and your background?
Okay, sure. Well, let's start with the coach part first. I really started off in that field by being coached myself to begin with, and funny thing, I was just talking with my mom and she was saying that she bumped into one of my old coaches, my football coaches, and he's still remembering me and raving about me. But I remember I was doing a time trial because I played football and ran track. And when I was 16 years old in high school, I was doing a time trial and I broke my hip. Like an old 90-year-old woman, I broke my hip while doing this time trial. You know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing is, being 16, I went through the normal rehab. I did ultrasound. I had a little hot tub thing they put in my house, and I got better. But nobody stopped to ask, like, how did this young man's hip break? And all he was doing was running. Mm-hmm. And fast forward that to about 4 years later. I'm 20 years old at this point, and I go in to see my doctor because I've been having this pain just radiating down the back of my leg. And he tells me to go get an MRI this time. And I'm like, why would I need to look at my spine when the problem's in my leg? I didn't even understand anything about how the body worked. Mm-hmm. And we got the scan back, went into his office. He put it up for me to see. And he said, no, I asked him, I was like, all right, doc, patch me up. Like, what do we got to do? Because I was used to being an athlete, just like fix this problem. And he's like, whoa, calm down, Shawn. Take a look at this MRI. You got the spine of an 80-year-old. There's nothing you can do about this. This is something you're going to have to manage. And my brain at the time, man, didn't even register, or it didn't make sense that he even said those words to me. So I asked him again. I was like, so what do we got to do to fix this? You know what I'm saying? And he just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, look, Shawn, this is something that just happens. You've got this degenerative spinal disease. He told me I had a disease. And right at that moment, man, to this day, I do not know. I swear, I do not know where this question came from. But I asked him, does this have anything to do with what I'm eating? Should I change the way I'm exercising? He said, this has nothing to do with what you're eating. Okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to get you a back brace. We're going to get you some prescription medication to manage this. And this is just something you're going to have to deal with. So the paradigm I was dealing with at the time, man, was that he said this has nothing to do with what I was eating, but he wrote me a prescription to eat some pills, right? So it's just like, that's interesting. And so I listened to him like a good little soldier. 2.5 years go by, I see 4 other doctors to get multiple opinions, which I highly recommend anybody does. If you've got an issue, if you're diagnosed with something, get multiple opinions. But they're all saying pretty much the same thing. And it all came to a head, man. 2.5 years later, 22 and a half. And in a definitely deep depression at the time. I'd gained all this weight, was feeling horrible. And the pain was so bad that I had to take medication just to sleep at night because the pain would keep me up. And again, it's hard to talk about. I can't even believe that was my life. So anyways, one night I was sitting on my bed about to take the medication, and it just all came like rushing in that I'd been giving my life over to these doctors, and having them write the story of how my life is going to be, and I made the decision right there that I was going to get well. And that's so important with people. If their goal is to be the fittest version of themselves, or their goal is to be healthy or to get out of sickness, they have to make a decision, and the word decision is from the Latin root de, meaning from, and kaidir, which means to cut. So when I made that decision, I cut away the possibility of anything else happening but that thing. I was going to get well. And so it's not like, like a unicorn came out, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like riding on the back of a unicorn like Will Ferrell and the rainbows came out. It didn't change like that. You know what I'm saying? I put into action a plan. And I decided I was going to learn everything that I could about the human body. I was going to learn everything that I could about not this disease per se, because the disease was actually easy to understand, but everything I could about wellness. Because our medical paradigm focuses on diseases, and the treatment of those diseases, not even curing them. So I really got to the root of what it is. And we can talk a little bit about that, how I got better. But 6 weeks later, lost 30 pounds. Again, results not typical. Throw up the quotes with that. And the pain was gone, man. It was as if nothing had ever been wrong with me, and that's really when you know that you're well, when you forget that you ever had a problem. I was just too busy living and getting well. So this whole coach thing comes to this point. The people I was still in college, and people saw the transformation that happened, because it's pretty shocking that somebody could change that much in that amount of time. And people started to ask me for help. And so I shifted my course of study in school, started studying biology and a lot of the wrong science, actually. But I started helping people, and thousands of clients later, best-selling book, #1 podcast, all that good stuff was all a result of me going through the biggest drama ever. You know what I'm saying? So I'm so grateful that I went through it. But, at the same time, I want to help people to avoid those things because we just don't have to go through it.
That's awesome. How did you, get out of pain? What was your process?
Awesome. Well, the easiest part for me, being a naive college student at the time, was doing the exact opposite of what my physicians were recommending, and the thing is, I'm not recommending people to do that, but this one is kind of like Captain Obvious right here. I started to move. I started to be active. All of them were saying, be careful, bed rest, wear this back brace all the time. Being 22, man, I was trying to go to the club. I was trying to have fun. And it's just like, I'm up here just all weird. I'm wearing a back brace, not exercising at all. My skin's all pale and I just look all messed up. This looks like something's wrong with me. And so I started to move, and here's the thing is that your body requires you to move. It requires you to be mobile in order for it to do any healing process. So you might be aware of this, that just even if you're taking a supplement, for example, they did this study with horses and found that if they did not walk the horses, they would not assimilate the calcium supplements that they were giving them. It would not get driven into their bones and make their bones denser. But they found that just walking the horses would help them to heal radically faster. Duh, you know what I'm saying? So that really came to a head when I started to become active, and I started off walking. Then I got onto the stationary bike, started running a bit, started lifting weights. Before you knew it, that was the part that I can get, as a guy and a college student, is lift some weights, exercise. But what really changed the game was the nutrition, and starting to understand that food isn't just food, it's information. And I was putting a bunch of, all low quality information into my body. And for me to regenerate my spine, it's not a matter of is it possible, because it's definitely possible. You can regenerate any tissue. The issue is having the raw materials to do it. So if you don't provide your body with the raw materials to do the process, like we're a protein machine, but are you getting high quality denatured proteins into your body? And for me in particular with my spine, my spinal disc, it's asking the question, what are my discs made of? Number one, they're made of water. That's what gives it the juiciness. But the whole catch, and for anybody out there, is understanding that even through the day, just say if somebody's 5'10", at the end of the day, you'll be about 5'9.5", just because of gravity and pushing down on those discs. When you wake up in the morning, you'll be 5'10" again, Now, the discs themselves are non-vascular. So that means that nutrition, blood flow, hydration doesn't get there directly, like if you just drink water and it gets to your skin or your digestive tract or even your blood. the water has to get into your disc through something called remote diffusion. So it's kind of like they're passing through this semi-permeable membrane or whatever. I don't want to get too technical with this stuff, but the bottom line is you got to drink a lot of water. You got to drink an absurd amount of water to get hydrated when you're chronically dehydrated. So I started drinking a liter of water first thing in the morning, and something super easy anybody can do. It's just, I call it taking your inner bath, right? Every morning, get up, take your inner bath. And then I would start to upgrade the water, and I would add MSM, so methylsulfonomethane, with sulfur compounds that help to build new tissues, that help to regenerate cartilage, right? So that combined with vitamin C, they biologically transmutate and create new tissues. So I was upgrading and just doing all this chemist stuff in there, and it worked. And then as far as the overall arching nutrition, because the supplement thing, I'm not really a big fan of because it's supplementation, which is, it's great, but we need to focus on the big thing, which is the diet. So I just started to eat more real food, man. It's really as simple as that. It's not like I found some magical food per se. There were magical foods at different times in my life, and it was wonderful. But what I was doing was getting a lot more phytonutrients, phytochemicals, enzymes into my body. And again, I talked about those sulfur compounds. So like aloe vera, for example, it's rich in these sulfur-bearing amino acids. So I would fillet up some aloe vera and throw it in a smoothie. And so I was doing this like 13 years ago and going to Whole Foods and getting this big dinosaur leaf, the aloe plant, and nobody was really shopping there. So people were really paying attention. Every time I go and check out, they're like, so what do you do with that? I was like, I eat it. And they're like, okay, and now it's just kind of common knowledge that these foods have some incredible properties. So that's really the two main components, man, was the movement and the upgrading my nutrition.
You said there were some foods that were kind of magical,
Yeah.
What were some of those foods?
Okay, well, first of all, the aloe vera. So sulfur-bearing aminos, one of the richest sources of something called polysaccharides, right? And these are because we hear about essential amino acids, essential fatty acids. What about the sugars? What about the other macronutrient? Polysaccharides mean many sugars. And so what that is a longer chain. The ones that I'm talking about, the more medicinal ones, if they're a short chain sugar, they're very sweet, right? But as the chain gets longer, it becomes more bitter. And we know that bitter is better. So we're getting more medicines. This is where you're going to find more of the alkaloids and more of the medicinal type of things that are found in foods. And in our modern society, a lot of people are not aware that our society has bred out a lot of those medicinal properties from the foods to make them more palatable and also to make them more easy to consume, a lot of it. Whereas in nature, if you were to harvest some wild lettuce, for example, that's a narcotic. You get pretty high if you try to consume a lot of it. So nature kind of has this off button, like, dude, don't eat so much, but we've bred it out so now we can just make huge salads and whatever. Not saying that's bad, but it's just understanding you're not getting the medicines that it was intended to have in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what we're doing, and here's the crazy part, is that the pharmaceutical industry is taking a lot of these plant alkaloids and then using them to make pharmaceutical drugs. So they're taking it out of the food, then selling it back to you as medication, right?
Wow.
Food and Drug Administration, man. Everybody's getting paid. Not here to start a conspiracy theory. It is what it is, So aloe vera, one of my favorite things of all time. Then another one really interesting, man. And it's so funny now. I haven't talked about this in years, actually. But I did a TED Talk. We were just talking about this before the interview in Las Vegas, called How Chocolate Can Save the World. And it was a really life-changing moment for me giving this talk. And this was back like 2010, around that time. And I had become just engulfed in this raw chocolate. And when I first started learning about it, this was not in the stores, like you couldn't find, like today, if you go and like you just see a Hershey's bar, it's like, 50% cacao in there. Everybody's really gotten on to where chocolate comes from. But at the time, what I discovered it was a very powerful deliverer of medicines, because chocolate itself was not used like we use it today. We make it all sweet and it's like candy. People were making drinks out of it, and they were mixing it with different medicinal herbs, peppers. It was a spicier thing, a hot thing, and something that was delivered as a drink. So what I started to do was take the chocolate and blend it with all this other stuff. So I would blend it with the aloe vera and then maybe some stevia and then some blueberries and some hemp seeds, some goji berries, and just, start making some of these superfood drinks that everybody's onto right now. And what that is a really fun and engaging way to get good stuff into people's bodies who normally are eating KFC, So it made my job a lot easier, I saw. And I would have these parties and it would be like a blender party, right? So we're up there making drinks like people are drinking, but they're getting high off like all this nutrition. And seeing these crazy stories happen, people that are like, this one story pops into my mind. She would be debilitated when her cycle happened every single month. This one young lady, and she started to make these drinks. She came to one of these little get-togethers, and she started to make these drinks. And she had told me that the last time she came on her cycle, she had to be wheelchaired out of her job, which is so embarrassing. And I'm like, well, it's kind of weird. But she was telling me that the last time she had came on her cycle, she didn't even realize, like, it just happened. And this is the first time it's happened in her adult life. She doesn't remember it not happening, that she's not in intense pain. It's just like, wow, that's interesting. And hearing stories like that, people's vision improving, people becoming more mobile, energy, all that kind of stuff. But I looked into it. Okay, so what's going on there with this woman's cycle, for example? And funny thing is, cacao, raw chocolate, might be the richest source of bioavailable magnesium of any food. Mm-hmm. And magnesium is, a lot of people know this too now, over 300 biochemical processes require magnesium to happen. Very, very powerful muscle relaxer. Obviously, if you're feeling pain that has to do with your blood flow and circulation, it could be tied to vascular constriction and muscle constriction. So it was just like, wow, that's really interesting how that's happening. And here's another thing, man. And I just found this out like last year, and it just blows my mind every time. You know about ATP, mm-hmm. right?
Yep.
So this is like the energy power plant of the cell. Like, this is the cellular currency of the body, right? So this is the mitochondria produce ATP, and this is what we experience as having energy. But it's not actually ATP. It's MgATP, all right? So it's magnesium combined with the ATP that actually is the thing that's usable by the human body. It requires magnesium, When I found that out, I'm just like, what? Crazy, amazing stuff. So, and also cacao has these precursors and neurotransmitters. How many foods, they have neurotransmitters? Like Doritos don't have neurotransmitters. You know what I'm saying? So, tryptophan, anandamide, serotonin. People are taking today a lot of serotonin reuptake inhibitor drugs because of issues with serotonin production or metabolism. And come to find out, you're getting a natural source of this powerful neurotransmitter in chocolate. And wonder why, again, people like chocolate so much. Even though the processed, baked, fried, fricasseed chocolate people are eating, it doesn't really have that in there anymore. But it has just enough of that essence that people still are really attracted to it. So phenethylamine, so PEA in particular, and this is another thing that's found in chocolate. This is in high concentration in the human body when you're in love, all right? So it gets even deeper of how chocolate is connected with love and the heart and Valentine's Day. And, it came from somewhere, but we just kind of turned it into like a Ryan Gosling movie over the years, where, it's not really about changing your body and your health anymore. It's about like, I'm down on one knee and I'm going to, ask you to go steady with me or whatever, but chocolate is it's one of those amazing foods, man. And we could talk about 10 more, there's so many like that, but those are two of my favorites for sure.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about the Advanced Integrative Health Alliance. What do you do there?
Awesome. So this is my company. We started, man, not enough people ask me about this, man. I'm so honored that you even asked me. Coming right out of college, I started my own company. And a lot of times people are in fear about starting their own business, doing something that they're passionate about because they're worried about money. And I promise you, man, the money will follow. It's just really about you doing high quality work and giving service. Service to many leads to greatness. And I really kind of live by that motto. And so I just focused on building myself up, becoming the best me possible, and sharing everything I could without limits, you know. So if anybody asks me about anything, I'll just like, you better get a big container because I'm going to tell you everything, you know.
Nice.
And so we came right out of the gates, started this company, and we've been successful since year one. You know, maybe like the first 2 months we weren't profitable, but after that, man, it's just been a steady flow and steady increase in our impact. And so what we do is, number one, over the years, I started off as a strength and conditioning coach. Then I shifted over, becoming a natural health practitioner, holistic health practitioner, all that kind of good stuff, and got some additional training, which again, none of that stuff really matters, man. It doesn't matter if you got some fancy pants degree from someplace. It's really about you. And it's really about, does what you do when you teach work? So my business, my company really focused on people with degenerative illnesses and chronic illnesses, kind of like what I went through. So we focused on arthritis, diabetes. We've got an 86% plus reversal rate for type 2 diabetes. So we could do that in our sleep. You know, it's super easy. Reversing heart disease. So, you know, people are interested in getting off their statins or lisinopril or whatever kind of random drug they're on. Cancer. We've worked with a lot of cancer patients over the years. And I actually did a podcast dedicated, or I did a couple of them dedicated, but the recent one that I did, I actually put up the scans of a breast cancer patient and showed what happened after 1 month of doing one of our protocols. And it's just like, seeing is believing, you know. And again, she went to see her physician. And like I did, and I didn't say this part of my story, when I went back to see my doctor a few months afterwards of getting better, he took a scan and he's just sitting there shaking his head. He's like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, you know, because he didn't have any logical explanation how I regenerated my spine, you know. So her doctor said the same thing. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You're doing amazing. The cancer is in remission and this whole thing. But people can actually head over to my site and just type in cancer, and it should come up in the search, and they can see the pictures there. And of course, check out the show. We're both on iTunes. You're killing it right now, man. So the Model Health Show, people can check me out on iTunes as well, and so many other major stores like that. So we really focused on that, and coaching people to be their own health guru, you know, to really make them empowered so they can live this life and not be dependent on me. And outside of that, just designing a lot of programs. Then we moved into the speaking arena, and that's kind of what birthed my first book, and being a bestseller in that whole thing. Actually, my second book was a bestseller. But it just grew, you know, it grew from just one-on-one to one-on-many. And now I'm really interested in being a spark maker. And like, I want many people in the audience to be coaches themselves so they can go help other people, and we can really change this game.
I like it. That's awesome. Now, I noticed you went to, you know, the University of Missouri, St. Louis. You studied biology and kinesiology. How was your experience there? I mean, do you think formal education for health and medicine was adequate?
Hell no. No, I mean, just to make it short and simple, no, not at all. But what's really valuable about the collegiate experience is the collegiate experience, just going to school and learning how to just structure your life, and learning how to interact with people, with your peers, with classes, and really becoming more accountable for your own actions. I think that is so valuable, and the relationships that are potential there in that setting, and just being immersed in education, that whole concept of I'm here to learn. I think that's super valuable. However, right now, I think that it's not that far off. You know, 10 years ago, I was saying it's about 20 years off before a lot of stuff I was talking about, you know, epigenetics and, you know, the pioneering work of like Bruce Lipton and Dr. Daniel Goleman, the emotional brain, the mirror neurons, all this stuff that I was learning about. I was like, we're about 20 years out before that's going to be in standard textbooks, you know? So right now, I think we're about 10 years out, but still, it's like, people listening, don't wait for 10 years to get this information. Immerse yourself in information like this. Stay connected with people who are putting these messages out there, because most of the people who are out there teaching health, and including your physicians, they'll tell you, a lot of my clients are physicians, you know, they'll tell you that nutrition is not even a requirement to get your degree. You know, it's one of those things that's elective. You might take one college class in nutrition. They're not looking at things from that perspective, but what's more important than what you put in your mouth? You're literally making your body and your cells and what your DNA is doing. And you look at like nutrigenomics and nutrigenetics, this whole field of science emerging that what you eat is literally changing what your genes are doing, right? What's more important than that? Yet our physicians are not trained in this. So we're just kind of, it's like the blind leading the blind. And these are some of the smartest people in the world, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take a smart person and you teach them the wrong thing, they become amazing at doing the wrong thing. You know, they're incredible at it. And they tend to get very dogmatic. But I know that they're good people at heart most of the time, and they're suffering as well, you know, because oftentimes their own health is suffering, but then not seeing their patients getting well is very, very draining and stressful. So what I was taught in school, first of all, just to give everybody a heads up, when I was in school, the nutrition program was funded by General Mills. All right. So
Wow.
the people making all of this crazy, you know, grains and cereal and all this stuff that we know now is going to lead to glycemic derangement, leaky gut syndrome, problems with, you know, with your brain, with depression, with arthritic conditions being exacerbated. All these things get encouraged by eating a carbohydrate-based diet, right? But they're funding the program, so what do you think we're going to teach? So when I started off, I started to try to teach my clients that stuff, like eat low fat, high fiber. So we're snacking on like these disgusting, like shredded wheat bars or whatever we were doing, and just suffering to try to get well and wondering why only half my clients would get the results. You know, it's because I was teaching them bad science, and I really had to do a really deep introspection to say, you know, this isn't working. I've got to get back to what I did to get well, not what I learned in school. And for me, it was really just about upgrading the quality of food I was eating. So I was still eating burgers, but now I'm eating grass-fed, you know, omega-3 rich, real food, you know, instead of the omega-6 rich, hormone-treated, antibiotic-laced meat that I would get from like Shop and Save or whatever I was buying. So I just upgraded my food quality. You know, I would eat a couple pieces of bread here and there, but I was eating the Ezekiel bread or whatever. But even that, you know, it just depends on you, and it depends on your level of health and your gut integrity. For some people, it's just not appropriate for them to eat any bread. But it's just like we like bread so much. So, you know, we'll justify it in our mind that, you know, the Ezekiel bread, it's made by angels in heaven, and then it comes down and it lands on in your toaster. It's not really like that. You know, it's still bread, and it's still, you know, just two slices of whole grain bread is equivalent to about 2 tablespoons of sugar as far as the glycemic response in your body, you know, and we can do better than that. So, yeah, man, I just went on a tangent there about all the stuff that we're
No,
up
it's
to,
good.
and with school, man. But you know, it's definitely, I would encourage people, if you're interested in going to school to learn more about this information, you need to be very, very aware that, matter of fact, be prepared to be pissed off, because you're going to be taught some things that are not true. And if you want to get a degree as a dietitian or whatever the case may be, that's all good. But just understand you're going to have to sit through a lot of stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable. But I want you to keep your awareness about you, that I'm going to keep doing my independent study and learn from people who are actually getting the results while I'm going to school and learning all this information that I have to get so I can get my degree, and then I can help people. So I encourage people to still, if you want to go to get a degree and do that, that's awesome, but you don't have to today. We live in the most amazing time that if you want to help people, you don't got to go to school to do that. You can, you know, you get coaching yourself. You know, you can join some of these wonderful programs, you know, the School of Integrated Nutrition. And there's so many people, my clients over the years, who've gone to that particular school. I hope I'm saying it right. Integrative School of Nutrition, one of the two. Mm-hmm. But just find yourself a certification program and get educated, do self-study, and make sure that you're healthy, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing better that can teach people than you being the example. And a lot of people forget that. So that's what I would say, man.
I agree 100%. You got to lead by example.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do you say some of the biggest problems are for people trying to get fit today?
Wow. Man, where to start? Okay, so first thing obviously is a radical separation between what real food is and what people are eating. You know, a lot of people believe that they're eating healthier foods when they're eating calorie reduced, fat-free, all these different marketing terms, when in actuality, they're eating heavily processed food. So one of the biggest obstacles for people is really getting comfortable again with eating fat. I think it's a big problem that is called fat, like dietary fat. We need to come up with a new name for it, because people think that eating fat makes you fat. And we were lied to and we were marketed to that was the truth. But that's like thinking that eating a blueberry will make you blue. It literally doesn't work like that, right? So, and fat is one of those things that, number one, and just to get people in a balanced place where they can make conscientious decisions is very, very difficult if somebody's doing a diet, because their nervous system is all screwed up because they're lacking all those fats. Fat is like insulation. So I like to give the example. Let me see, like this wire here on my microphone, it's got this it's a coating around it. And inside we've got like those copper wires, right? Very sensitive stuff that we can bend really easily. If we were to pour water on those copper wires, we get some sparks. The conditions in here, if it was too cold or too hot, it might damage those wires. But then you got this insulation, this coating over the top, which protects it so that nothing too strenuous happens to it. That's how fat is for our nervous system. It basically coats our nervous system and it's like a buffer so that we're not constantly in reaction and just so got all this anxiety and this fear and this worry, and we can't calm ourselves and stay in control of what we're doing. Our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, everybody's just kind of, not everybody, but a lot of people are just all over the place and they're feeling like a victim. I'm giving fats like the biggest promotion ever right now because they're so healing for your nervous system, and to get people to get comfortable, because I know this because I did it. When I first looked at that jar of coconut oil and I saw it was like 14 grams of saturated fat or whatever it was in like a tablespoon, I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm straight up gonna die when I eat this. I don't know who told me to eat it at the time, 10 years ago, but I was like, this person's gonna kill me, but I'm gonna do it. And so I started eating this coconut oil, and lo and behold, blood work gets better. Body composition gets better, skin gets better, everything is improving. And what am I doing? I'm eating more fat, So I think that's one of the biggest breakthroughs that people have to have, is to get comfortable with eating fat again. And that's the plant fats and animal fats as well, because they're some of the most important things for our nervous system, for our brain, our hormones. I hope that answers your question, man. I think that's probably like the top rung for really changing how people are interacting with their environment.
Where do you get a lot of your information from? How do you stay on the cutting edge?
That's so funny, man. I just thought about this yesterday. I was listening to an interview, and the interviewer asked the person, like, what are you into? And the guy's just like, nothing. I'm not into anything in particular. If I told you what I was into, you think I was crazy because there's nothing to do with this. And I haven't read an entire book in the last year. Prior to that, I read probably a book a week. What I really feel is important is that we don't just continuously consume information, but we create information. And you start to find, like, stuff in your ideas and your concepts and your way to express things can be more powerful than the way that you were taught them. So I stopped reading books and wrote my own. And I really don't study too much information now, man. I've got so much built up in me. I'm just out there packaging it up and giving it back to people in a way that they can understand. Other than that, I do listen to a podcast occasionally. But right now, my favorite podcast is reviewing my own show, which I have to do every week. I'm not saying it's my favorite podcast, but it is my favorite. No, but I'm listening to like how to get my message out there type of shows. So my buddy like Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas. So these are some people who are now friends of mine, and just learning from them on how to get the information to more people, because you could be excellent at communicating health to people who are in your area, but how do you get this out on a larger scale? Because now, this we're world citizens now. People right now are listening to this in multiple countries. How powerful is that, man? So
It's
powerful.
awesome. Yeah, I love
But
it.
we have to know how to communicate the message in a way that they can understand as well, because we're all one big family. We're most like 20th cousins. On last episode of my show, I was talking about genetics and the truth about genetics, that we have about 25,000 genetics total in the entire human species. When people hear 25,000, it doesn't sound like a lot, because like, how do we have so much variance and variation in what we are? Fruit flies have more genetics than we do, which is, it's like, how is that even possible? And only 1%, it's actually less than 1% of the genetics that we all have are different. Okay. So we are so closely related and so much the same. It's scary. It's like absurd. But at the same time, why is there so much variance? Why are so many people sick? And this really gets into the conversation of epigenetics, and understanding that in epigenetics, that's epi mean above. So above genetics, above genetic control, that our actions, the food we choose to eat, the relationships we choose to have, our stress level, how we are managing the world and how we interact with our environment is literally determining what our genes are doing. The genes aren't doing anything in and of themselves. The genes are a blueprint, so just like if you got a blueprint for a house and you go and ask the architect, so what is that blueprint doing? He's going to look at you like you're crazy. Like the blueprint's not doing anything, buddy. Get out of here. Something wrong with you. But the reality is that's how we look at genetics. Like all the genes they're doing all this stuff, but genes don't do anything. What does change is who is reading or when the blueprint is getting read, and what we do with the actions that we do to get it built. Okay. So I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We're really in so much control to govern and to express the highest form of our genes. We all have, unless you're in the less than 5% of the people who are born with a true genetic birth defect, we're born with good genes, all of us. So we're just turning on programs for diabetes, for cancer, for arthritis early. These used to be, conditions that people get when you're old. Now people in their 20s, teenagers, kids are getting diabetes. And how is that even possible? What's really going on again is just we've been bombarded with all of this treacherous health information, where it's okay to give your kid French fries, like go to McDonald's. I mean, here's for your 1-year-old, like they're knocking down some partially hydrogenated oil. And, it's just so inappropriate, man. In like a extra large orange soda, So what we're getting out of that, man, is really about shows like yours and what we got going on, and just all of our other friends out there in the podcast community. We're really making a big difference right now, man. And we're reaching a lot of people who are reaching a lot of people. And it's so inspiring, man, because we're a part of this right now. The future change that's coming, like I said, in 10 years when the books are changing, it's because we're doing this work. And I'm so honored. Like every time I talk about it, I'm just so honored to be a part of it all. And I'm so honored to be connected with you and just everybody else who's out there making a difference,
So what does your diet look like?
Good question. I could tell you, first of all, it varies, it changes. I'd like to say that I'm at this place in my life where I listen to my body, because we have this very idealistic thing like, okay, I'm going to do this low carb thing now, right? I'm going to do a ketogenic diet. Okay. But then your hormones, like maybe your libido goes down, or maybe your testosterone gets a little bit low, or maybe you're feeling more stressed or sad or uncomfortable, whatever, like your body's giving you some feedback. If you're doing a lot of other stuff right in your life, that, hey, maybe what you're eating or not eating is causing a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're in tune with our body enough, we can know like, okay, my body really wants salt, or my body really wants something with some sweetness to it. Not like I'm going to go eat 5 bananas, but like maybe I'm going to go and eat some berries, So I really listen to my body and what I want. So I'm waking up in the morning not necessarily knowing what I'm going to eat, and I just go in the kitchen, just like, okay. And I got a lot of stuff. So it's just like, okay, I'm really feeling like I want, and I could tell everybody what I had today. So today, I got back, I took my son, he's 2 years old. We went on a stroller walk. So I'm powering him through the neighborhood, and we get back. And so I'm pretty hungry. I do some mobility work. And so I made 4 extra large eggs over easy but not over easy, sunny side up. I had a couple of chicken sausages. I had half a plate of sauteed greens. So it was a lot of greens and super spicy. Like it was kind of ridiculous, like my nose was running. And I had a little bit of sauerkraut too. And that was my breakfast today, and that's kind of what I encourage people to do if their goal is like fat loss, is make sure that the half of their plate is non-starchy vegetables at every meal. I don't always do that because it's not my concern about fat loss, but that's what my body wanted today. I just kept pouring on the greens. Like I just want more and more and more. And so I had that. And for lunch, I had a huge salad. Matter of fact, I'll show you the bowl. It's like bigger than my head. So I had this huge salad with greens. My wife made a honey mustard dressing from extra virgin olive oil and some other ingredients. I threw a little bit of chicken in there, a crazy amount of olives. What else did I have in there? And that was pretty much it. So that's what I've had thus far. I'm about to go hit the gym. I'm going to load up on my, I'm trying out a new pre-workout supplement from my sponsor. I don't know if I can say their name right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So onit.com is my sponsor. And so they've got this shroom tech, and it's based on cordyceps, which is like one of those amazing things for stamina. Funny thing is, this stuff really works, man. And I'm very skeptical. And if it didn't work, I just wouldn't talk about it, or if it worked okay, but it is really doing something. So I'm going to do that. And then tonight, Friday nights, we generally go for Chipotle, if I'm in the mood, so that's my night to get my white rice on. And by the way, we got to stop eating that brown rice, man. People out there understand the brown rice. When I started eating brown rice, like, I don't know, 10-ish years ago, I was eating brown rice, and I would wonder, like, I'm sitting there eating brown rice and I'm looking at the owner of this Asian restaurant. I'm like, why are they eating white rice? What's wrong with them? Don't they know it's not good for you? And the funny thing is, like, after I dug into it and did some deeper introspection and study, I found out that thousands of years ago, they figured out that the bran of that rice has some potential gut irritants and some potential autoimmune type triggers, some things that are similar to lectins that are found in grains that can damage your gut lining. And so they just took it out. They just took it out so that you're just getting a simple starch. Okay, you're with white rice, yeah, that's all you're getting. But at the same time, you're not getting a potential problem. And it's really been marketed that this is like the best thing if you're going to eat rice, eat brown rice, because you're getting all the fiber and all these minerals. That fiber for a lot of people. And just survey yourself, anybody listening, when you eat brown rice, do you feel like you get bloated? Do you feel like you're kind of puffy and not feeling all that great? If your body's giving you that feedback, stop eating it, But if you can jive with the brown rice, you like the nutty flavor, all good. I'm not taking it away from you, but just chances are, if people are dealing with some autoimmune stuff, I would say pull out the brown rice. If you want to have a couple servings of rice a week and use it as a delivery system for all the other good stuff, go ahead and have some white rice. And of course, I'm going to load that bad boy up with guacamole. And what I always do, I've got this bag of, like, I'll show you, man. Never done this before. My daughter's going to Webster University, first semester student. Got all my crazy supplements in here, but these are whole food based, so my green powder. And then I always keep some spirulina with me. So I'll add that to my salad. I'll add it to my guacamole. Tastes amazing. A big mistake with spirulina is putting it in your smoothie. A lot of people, I want my smoothie to taste good. It can screw that flavor up. But some people, it's all good. They do it in their smoothie. But mix it in with some savory dishes. Try that out. Mix it in with guacamole. Avocados and spirulina go way back in the Aztec community. They've been doing this stuff for a long time. So there's a couple little tips, and that's basically what I usually have, or what I had today. And looking forward to that Chipotle tonight.
Nice. What about your workout program? What does your workout look like?
Okay. So right, again, that varies too. It's summertime. I did a photo shoot a little while back, so I had to put on a lot of weight. Not a lot, but like a lot for me. I'd put on 11 pounds, and it sucked, man. The most difficult thing, and this is what I teach my clients too, when you're eating real food, it is hard to get out of shape. Okay, it's hard to overeat because the food is so nourishing. So I was trying to overeat would literally make me depressed. Like I would try to eat that last little bit of sweet potato or rice. It made me so depressed and tired, you know. But I pushed through, and you can kind of adapt to it. It becomes like an internal callus. So during that time, I was really doing heavy lifts. So I was doing some heavy Olympic lifts, a lot of deadlifts, squats, flat bench, weighted pull-ups, all that kind of good stuff, but then lower reps, so like 5 to 8 reps, maybe up to 10. Now I'm doing kind of like classic bodybuilding stuff, but I always do one power lift at the beginning of my workout. Not always, but most of the time right now. So my workout, let's just say the one I did yesterday. So I did legs. So first of all, start off with a deadlift. Threw a bunch of weight on the bar, did 5x3. And then I did the more high rep stuff. So I did weighted lunges, like 3 sets of 20, the leg press, 3 sets of 10, that kind of thing. And man, it's hard to walk today, man. And today, same thing. I'm going to start off with a power lift, probably an overhead press, heavy, maybe 5x3. And then I'll get into like the Arnold press for 10 reps, lat raises, maybe do 4 or 5 sets of 10 to 15. Really just classic bodybuilding stuff, fun stuff. All guys, like, it should be like National Arm Day all the time, you know? So that's what kind of today is, you know, you got to have the fun stuff, but you also got to do the real world stuff, you know, and the things that help your body to secrete all those anabolic hormones. So that's why the deadlift, man, I feel the deadlift that's the best exercise ever to me. Squats, yes, that's awesome. But I think the deadlift really replicates a human movement, a human pattern that our genetics require, that our genetics expect us to do. Our genetics expect us to be able to pick heavy stuff up off the floor, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I love it so much, man. And you truly do feel like a stronger human being. And me coming with, like, I had all these back issues, right? People are so afraid, like, oh, I've got back problems. I'm telling you right now, deadlifting can heal you. Okay. I'm not saying if you've got 2 herniated discs right now to go and do a 300-pound deadlift. I'm not saying that. Get yourself well by being active and applying some of the stuff that we've been talking about. Walk like like it's your full-time job, and get to a place where you can lift the bar up. Get to a place where you can put a plate or 2 on there and just work your way up and understand that, you know, you can really build what you want to do if you've got back problems, you want to build like a machine around your back, you know, with your core, your rectus abdominis, your rectus spinae, your psoas, all that stuff. You need to build everything up, and you want to be functional, you know? So I think walking is like the best form of medicine going as far as exercise, man. And so, yeah, that's what I'm up to. That's what I'm doing right now.
So I know you said something earlier about, you know, doing some mobility work in the morning and whatnot. You know, what does that look like? Is that foam rolling and stretching, or is that just being active?
I'm just like, it's like a playground in here. So I got the Swiss ball over there. I got my foam roller over here. And this is my office, you know, so I keep this stuff around, man. But yeah, that's what I do. After I go, most mornings I go for a walk. And usually nowadays my son gets up early, even though he should be sleeping still. So he'd be like, we'll go for a walk. So I got to take him with me because that would normally be my podcast time. So then I get back and I'll really work on my trouble spots, which are most people's trouble spots. So get on the foam roller and really working on the glutes, working on the hamstrings, the lats, and doing a lot of hip mobility stuff, a lot of hip stretches, getting into a resting squat. Every human being should be able to do that. That's our natural pooping position. If you can't do that, that's a problem. So just working on that, and I'll just kind of get into that resting squat and just sit there for 2 minutes. You know, also something that's really great for the hips is working your way into doing a split. Funny enough. And so I'll work a little bit on that. And yeah, man, just kind of, I'll do whatever I feel like I need to do. And then some of the stuff that I know I need to do anyways, you know? So, and sometimes I'll work on the tennis ball a little bit, get that in there into some of my back muscles. Another little thing that people can try out is reflexology. And putting a tennis ball or some kind of firm ball under their foot and rub that around, just kind of like when you're sitting at your desk. And you can hit some of those acupressure points and help to improve your digestion. You can help to encourage your liver to have better bile flow. You can help to relax muscles. Really powerful stuff, man. Like the nerve endings in your foot, that's like the out channel for so many places in your body that's connected to. So another little tip for everybody. Yeah.
I like that. What about sleep? You know, how much sleep do you get in a night, and what do you recommend?
This is my favorite subject. Sleep. So my book, my best-selling book, right now it's still number one. It's been number one for 2 months straight. Powering through. Number one in the world bestseller list on Amazon. It's called Sleep Smarter. And it's 21 proven tips to sleep your way to a better body, better health, bigger success. What I found over the years, man, is that was the secret sauce. That was the missing component. When I would see people who have a great diet, they're exercising probably too much, and they're not getting the results. It's like, what's going on? And you do a deeper introspection, you find out a couple of things. Could be excessive stress because of work, relationship stress. These have a huge a part on what somebody's health is manifesting as. And oftentimes I'll find out, wait a minute, we got a problem with this sleep. Sleep is known as the anabolic state. It's the anabolic state for humans. Being awake is catabolic, period. If you're awake, you're in a catabolic state. Your body's breaking down. It's not that that's a problem. We need both. It's like the yin and yang. But you need that time to repair from all this stuff. Literally from your muscle repairing, from that powerful workout you did. Your body doesn't change in the gym. When you go in the gym like, yeah, I'm going to get in shape, you're actually beating yourself down. You're in worse shape after your exercise. After you leave the gym, you're in worse shape than when you got there. If you were to come into my clinic, or we go and get you some blood work done, you would have high stress hormones. You know, your inflammatory biomarkers would be off the charts. C-reactive protein would be up. It's just like, there's something wrong with you. No, you just did a workout. You're all right. It's a hormetic stressor. You'll be better in a day or two, and your body will come back better. But if you don't sleep, not so. You can get away with more of that when you're younger, but the people that are getting away with that, like myself then, was accelerating my aging process to the point where I couldn't get away with it far faster. I hope that makes sense. But with sleep, what we found is, number one, it's the anabolic state. Especially the initial stages of sleep is when your body secretes the greatest amount of human growth hormone. This is the youth hormone, right? This is why kids have so much energy. And it's not that we stop producing it. It's that we stop sleeping when we get older because we're big grown-ups. You know, like my mom can't tell me what to do anymore. I'm going to stay up and watch, you know, every episode of The Lord of the Rings or whatever it is that we want to watch. Not episode, but movie, you know? So, or I'm going to watch like all my favorite shows on Netflix. We're just kind of breaking the rules because we can, but you can't outrun your biology. You know, like our bodies have been evolved over eons, man. Like we don't even know how long to be a certain way. And only in the last few decades have we been able to trump that system and stay up late and basically create another daytime, you know? So here's the deal. Number one, they did a study, Canadian Medical Association Journal published a study where they put individuals on the same exact diet, same exact exercise program, and they studied them after a series of weeks. What they discovered was that the control group, who slept for 8+ hours a night, lost far less body fat and far less weight than the experiment group, who slept for less than 6 hours a night. The only difference with them was the sleep. The only difference. Everything else the same. The people who sleep less stay fat. Okay? So it's right there in black and white. You're never going to achieve and maintain the results you want with your health if you're not sleeping. That's number one. That's kind of like the aesthetic thing. That's the outer thing. Now, what about internally? Well, if you're not sleeping, you're damaging your immune system. You're damaging your gut integrity. Our bacteria kind of have a change of guard. Every single day when you wake up, there's all this stuff going on with your digestion, with the bacteria in your gut, and them assimilating and digesting food. And at some point, the lower level bacteria, funguses, yeast, candida, which we all have, but they're in check. They start to kind of get on top of the bacteria that should be in charge. And this is why sleep is important. There's a big shift in your gut bacteria when you go to sleep. A lot of people do not know that. And then what about our brain? Because we were talking about a good friend of mine before the call, Jim Quick, learning expert and all that, just amazing. But he knows also when you don't sleep, sleep is when your body does something called memory processing, when you're in deep sleep. This is when your short-term memory gets converted into long-term memory. So if you're passionate about performance, about learning this information about health, it can be in one ear, out the other. It can be here today, gone today. Not here today, gone tomorrow, but today.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get that sleep to really make it a part of who you are and to get filed away essentially as a long-term memory, that process happens while you're sleeping. So if you're interested in performance, if you're interested in having a great body, if you're interested in not being sick, this is how important sleep is. And in the book, I give literally 21 different strategies to optimize and improve your sleep quality, not the quantity. It's not, nowhere in the book do I say you need to get blank hours of sleep, because it's not about that. It's about getting your body into the most time possible in the deep rejuvenative, deep sleep, stages 3 and 4 of sleep. How can you do that? And that's what the book really focuses on. And many of the things are really, really simple things, but we just don't know because we're running around here up at 2 a.m. doing the lap dance, watching TV, like we just have no idea this is going on. So I'm so passionate about the subject and so passionate about getting this message out there because people, like I said, it's been a bestseller for 2 months straight, and it's not slowing down because people want to know this information. A lot of people out there suffering. So I can't wait to share this we're doing a lot of corporate talk soon about this, the universities out there, and changing the conversation about sleep. And, you asked about this, and it's so funny. We didn't plan this, but it's a big thing, but it's also not sexy. Like, who wants to talk about sleep, So we got to make it sexy. We got to make it fun. And I definitely do that in the book for sure.
That's awesome. What do you think about hyperbaric chambers then? You think those are a quick hack to get better sleep?
That's some Michael Jackson stuff, man. I don't even know, man. That's not my forte, man. I'm just looking at what's as easily accessible to everybody as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I did do some interesting experiments that I didn't put into the book, but I really focused on the things that actually worked. And what it really boils down to is simplicity, man. It's just getting reconnected with nature, not trying to trump nature or trying to find a way to hack it. It's just getting yourself in alignment with it. And the funny thing is, it makes everything else easier.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those things is sunlight. And again, this is Captain Obvious, but in the morning, the hours, what the studies have shown is the hours between 6:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. is the most effective time to get sunlight on your body. And what's been proven is that getting sunlight at those hours helps improve your sleep at night. And it's kind of counterintuitive that something I do in the morning, sunlight, is going to help me sleep better at night. But what that's doing is it's helping to set your circadian timing. Your ancestors would normally get up when the sun comes up, So when you do that, you actually, you're getting your body to convert the cholesterol into vitamin D. You're going to be you're encouraging your body to secrete more cortisol at the right time. Versus if you stay asleep till 11 a.m., your cortisol is it's down when it should be up.
Mm-hmm.
And cortisol is the antithesis, is the opposite of melatonin. So when cortisol is high, melatonin is down. When melatonin's up, cortisol is down. So for a lot of people, they're upside down in this. So at night, their cortisol is up when their melatonin should be up, And this is another reason they're not getting deep quality sleep. They might go to sleep, but they're waking up tired. So we've got to do these simple things to get your hormone cycle online. And everybody has hormone cycles, by the way. It's not just women. Guys, we definitely have this. And I know some women are like, yes, you do. So we've got to find ways to get our own hormone cycles back online with nature.
Awesome. What would you say is one thing our listeners could take today and implement in their lifestyles to be healthier?
Focus on getting high quality sleep. I think we really just end with the last thing, which is, sleep is the anabolic state for a human being. And you ensuring that you're getting high quality sleep, not like you gotta sleep 10 hours a night. It's not about that, but just do small things to set yourself up to get high quality sleep, because this is going to transpire over into your life in most amazing ways. When your sleep is good, everything else in life is good. Exponentially gets better. Your results from your exercise gets better. Your digestion gets better. Your immune system gets better. Your brain gets better. But we know the opposite too. It can be exponentially worse. When you're sleep deprived, first thing that happens, just one night of sleep deprivation makes you as insulin resistant as a type 2 diabetic. You're already going to be storing more fat that day. And this is what the research shows. Your immune system's going to go down. Most people that get sick, it's when they're traveling and taking a bunch of flights and not sleeping. They'll find out, oh, well, wow, I just got back and I got sick. That's just because you didn't get sleep. So your immune system, your brain is going to suffer. We know that we underperform. We know that we lack creativity. We know that we lack our willpower when we don't sleep, because one of the funny things is glucose isn't getting to your frontal cortex as much. So you can lose about 14% of the glucose that's getting to your part of your brain that's responsible for you choosing between right and wrong, your quote willpower, making a decision between what you want to do and what you know you shouldn't do. So all that stuff gets harder when you're sleep deprived. And understanding these things, you start to put a greater weight and a value to sleep. So really make it a mandate in your life that you give your body the sleep that it requires, and do the small things like in the book to stack the conditions so that you don't got to spend half your life sleeping. You can actually get the quality sleep and then enjoy your waking hours.
I love it. You gave a lot of great wisdom and advice today. And again, I want to thank you for joining us on our podcast, Exerscribe Radio today. Thank you, Shawn.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Talk to you soon. If you haven't already, get your custom workout program by downloading the Exerscribe app from the iTunes App Store today.